Yeah, so everyone, Fall Jurash, Cúilín Media. Welcome back, everyone, for another weekend review show here on Cúilín Media. It is episode 25 already of the pod, would you believe, lads, since we started back in September, this joint venture between on Clihe, Gaelic Statsman, Faithful Podcast, and Gaelic Fan TV. It's myself, Seamus Brady, joined tonight by Liam White and Matthew Hurley as we run through all of the headlines and highlights from another bumper weekend of club championship action across the country in all four codes. Lads, busy weekend. First weekend in the Club Hurling Championship where you are both just chilling, watching. But how are we keeping, lads? Matthew, I'll come to you first.
Yeah, very good to be fair, James. Yeah, I suppose there were some decent games over the weekend. Obviously, the Ergnats LGFA story really took the headlines. Some brilliant performances, obviously. Marie O'Neill, Cathy Carey as well. Like, it was just an incredible day for Ergnats to get their day in the sun, obviously. The Ulster semi-final was brilliant between Scottstown and Newbridge. Even though, funnily enough, I actually watched Arsenal and Chelsea instead because after the hurling game, the Munster hurling game today, I was done, to be honest. Ballygunner absolutely blitzed Ergnats in so many ways today. And yeah, there was some decent stories over the weekend. Obviously, Loughgiel from Kilkenny reaching the LGFA junior final, which is a magnificent achievement for those players involved. Some other great stories across the grades, not just in senior and intermediate and junior as well. So looking forward to getting into it, yeah. So I suppose the games are shortening down as the post would suggest and things like that, but there's a lot more finals, a lot more semi-finals being decided, and LGFA and Camogie are now both in their final stages in senior, intermediate and junior as well, which is obviously great to see.
Yeah, no, the cream really is rising to the top now, isn't it, Liam?
Yeah, absolutely. We won't talk about Chelsea Arsenal anyways. That was a dreadful result for us. But yeah, no, I think the weekend was interesting enough from the perspective that we kind of said it before we came on air, that it was either incredibly predictable or it was extremely unpredictable. You know, there was like no in between, to be honest with you. You either got one of the biggest shocks of the year or you just got the most predictable results of the year. So, but no, like Matthew said, we're heading into the nitty gritty of the year now. A lot of finals to come over the next couple of weeks in both the All-Ireland and junior intermediate level, and starting to go into the provincials now, or to the All-Ireland series now for the seniors and all that. So yeah, no, look, plenty to get into. Looking forward to it.
Yeah, no, we are going to dive straight in terms of what is the biggest and most eye-catching result from the weekend. And once you knew the backstory of this game, this result is absolutely incredible. St. Ergnats went away to Kilmacud Crokes and beat them 112-110. And what makes it even more incredible is that the game was on in Kilmacud's backyard. Kilmacud were overwhelming favourites coming into the contest, but Ergnats have the likes of Maria O'Neill, they have the likes of Brona Devlin, they're Antrim champions, they won the Ulster Championship for the first time in their history, but I don't think anyone saw this one coming. Matthew, what an incredible win.
It was absolutely sensational. In fairness to Ergnats, and even the backstory that not just the game was on Stillorgan, and not just because they're playing the Dublin champions and Kilmacud, who obviously tested Kilkerrin all the way last year in the All-Ireland final. This is the first ever Antrim team to reach an LGFA senior club final, which is a magnificent achievement for not just Ergnats in general, but for Antrim LGFA as well. It's a fantastic achievement. And Brona Devlin's goal, I don't know if you see this, that's the clip of Brona Devlin's goal. Kilmacud did a bit of a playing around at the back. It was a bit of a poor goal to concede. But once Marie O'Neill saw sight of the goal, she was going for it. And what a finish into the bottom corner. I think Jerome Quinn quoted this in commentary from the highlights I looked at it anyway. He was saying that little old Ergnats, toppling Kilmacud Crokes, he knew as soon as the ball hit the back of the net then, the shock was coming. And what a day for Ergnats and Antrim LGFA. As I mentioned, Marie O'Neill getting the goal. She also got another 4 points to add to her tally. 1-4, excellent display. Brona Devlin, as you mentioned there, Seamus, excellent player in the Antrim team. As well as that, Cathy Carey, who's now retired from the Antrim LGFA team, she got 5 points today. Exceptional performance from everybody in the Ergnats team. And what a display. Not just to beat Kilmacud Crokes today, but to beat a side like Loughgiel in the Ulster final. It's a magnificent story, and probably one of the stories of the year. We talk about Loughgiel in the LGFA, we talk about other teams and things like that in the men's game, but you have to look at this story and say, wow, what an achievement from St. Ergnats. And look, I know Kilkerrin will be a difficult side in the final, but whatever happens in the final, they've done Antrim proud, they've done their club proud, and they've done everybody, the underdogs in more ways than one proud. It's an absolutely exceptional achievement. Congratulations to everybody involved. And They should celebrate this. Obviously, they have the week off next week. It's an All-Ireland final before Christmas. Then they'll be looking forward to that, going to Croke Park. It's an exceptional achievement, and congrats to all involved there.
It is absolutely nuts, isn't it, Liam? When you consider myself and yourself not too long ago were giving out stick about the fact that Kilmacud had home advantage. And to be honest, I still stand by what I said on that episode, and I'm sure you still do as well. It still wasn't fair that the game was being played in Kilmacud. It wasn't fair on Comeragh Rangers that game was being played in Kilkerrin Clonberne, which we'll come to next. But for Ergnats, like, to just, yeah, so what? We'll go and play the game anyway, and we'll beat them in their own backyard. Unbelievable attitude to have by them. Just incredible stuff.
Yeah, no, it's fantastic. No, I still agree that there shouldn't be an All-Ireland, a predicament where an All-Ireland club semi-final is being held in a club's home ground. To be honest with you, I still think it's wrong. But in fairness to them, like, Jesus, to go all the way down to a side like Kilmacud Crokes, who've been a fairly dominant side in Dublin and Leinster over the last number of years, and the players that they have as well, and to go down and beat them by 2 points is an absolutely remarkable achievement. You know, even seeing like they were 2 points down at half time, and you were thinking, okay, they were still putting up a good performance then, you know, but you were thinking maybe Kilmacud could kick on in the second half. But no, they took over in the second half, and it's an unbelievable feat for them to outscore their opponents 1-6 to 5 points in the second half. You know, is remarkable. You know, like, I was keeping up to date with it towards the end, and I saw that it was 111 to 1-8, and I was actually thinking it was a typo. I was thinking, like, was this thing broken? Like, no way that they're winning this game by 3 points. And then you see the full-time result, and like when we said it to each other earlier, we were like in complete shock that this has happened, you know. And it's not even against St. Ergnats, whatever. It's just more with Kilmacud having home advantage and what they've done over the last number of years, and how much of a good side that they are, and how confidently and how comprehensively they won the Leinster Championship as well, especially against Loughgiel in that Leinster final. To then go and lose this now is going to be a massive, massive kick in the teeth for them. But to be the first, for themselves to be in their first ever All-Ireland final, and to be the first ever Antrim club to reach an All-Ireland final, is just simply a remarkable achievement. And like Matthew said, to win the Ulster title in the fashion that they did as well, in convincing fashion, it's been a remarkable year for them. And for them to get to Croke Park now, just 2 weeks before Christmas, I mean, it doesn't get much better than that. Regardless of what happens in the final, it's going to be tough against Kilkerrin Clonberne, but it's a remarkable achievement for them, no matter what. Matthew's right, they should go and celebrate this tonight.
Yeah, I mean, there's no doubt about it. When you have like a challenge like that they were presented with, I'm going to be honest, I thought that they were being teed up for a tough defeat. Especially going into the belly of the beast, to go into Kilmacud's backyard. I thought it was kind of teed up for them to have a bad day at the office. But Matthew, like, let's be honest, with Kilmacud Crokes, the minute the Kilmacud Crokes got out of Dublin, it was very clear what the narrative was around their season. Could they put right the wrongs of last year and beat Kilkerrin Clonberne in the final? And especially when it was them two on the other side of the draw from each other, then it was obvious that they might meet in a final. Do you think it's a case that Kilmacud just genuinely had one eye on the final, especially when they were, you know, let's be honest, home advantage in a semi-final? What more do you want? It was all there for them. How have they left this one behind?
You make a very good point there, Seamus, about maybe taking their eye off the ball in some ways more than one, because they do have not just inter-county standard Dublin players, but they have inter-county players from across the country. The likes of Niamh Cotter from Cork, the likes of Alva Daffron from Galway. They have some serious talented players, and they tested Kilkerrin Clonberne all the way. And especially, I think, once they got past Dunshaughlin in the Leinster Championship, that was a Dunshaughlin team that had some talented players from Meath. And you were thinking then, as soon as they got past that big test that Dunshaughlin would have offered, you were thinking then it's just a case of not if they'd reached the All-Ireland final, but when they reach the All-Ireland final, can they put it up to Kilkerrin Clonberne? And that is always a dangerous, dangerous mindset. The mindset, with the greatest respect to Ergnats, I think once Ergal Kieran were taken out in Ulster, they do have the likes of the Canavans and things like that, and they do have historical kind of elements within not just the whole range of their club, obviously their men's side reaching the All-Ireland final last year. Once that happened, and once Clonairon went out in Armagh, you were kind of thinking from a Kilmacud point of view then that it's all there for us. You're home in Stillorgan, and you're thinking they're going to roll over these guys. I'm sure that wasn't the exact mindset with Kilmacud Crokes in fairness, but they had to have that at the back of their mind somewhat, because like the way that the Ulster Championship was unfolding and the way they got past Loughgiel and Leinster, it was all opening up for them. And the way Kilkerrin Clonberne were on the other side of the draw, it was always going to do that as well. But you have to take your hat off to Ergnats at the same time for causing the shock like this. And worth noting as well, not just Loughgiel, not just Kilmacud Crokes, they also beat Clonberne, who we all tipped to win Ulster as well. Mm-hmm. They have beaten every fancied side that they've come across in the last 3 rounds. And you have to give them a lot of credit over this, in fairness. It is a brilliant win for everybody in Ergnats, and it's a fantastic achievement. And you know what? Looking at the sides that they have beaten, the Clonbernes, the Kilmacuds, the Loughgiels, they've most certainly earned their place in Croke Park in December.
Yeah, no, there's no question about it. Peter here talking about that game said, hey lads, headline story of St. Ergnats will have to be awarded shock, upset and dramatic moment of the year, not only to take out a kingpin like Crokes, but to smash and grab in Crokes' backyard. I think that's the other thing though, like which is even more crazy, I don't even think it was a smash and grab. They were leading going into the final quarter. They were trailing at half time, but in the third quarter, they took over the game. They got the goal from Marie O'Neill going into the final quarter, and they held their own. They were every single bit deserving of that victory. But you're absolutely right, Peter. It is headline of the weekend as far as I'm concerned, because I would have never, and I'm being honest, I would have never thought that game would have gone like that. I thought Kilmacud were going to win fairly handy, and I thought Kilkerrin Clonberne would win fairly handy, which they did. And we're going to come to that game next. But a massive congratulations to St. Ergnats. And it's an unbelievable victory. And they're into the All-Ireland final, where they now face Liam, the final boss. Kilkerrin Clonberne, 111. Comeragh Rangers, 3 points in Kilkerrin. Kilkerrin Clonberne right now, they are the most impressive dynasty that we have in the club championships. And they're one of the most impressive dynasties that we've ever seen in club championship history. With the competitiveness of the championships in the modern day, for them to have won 4 All-Irelands in a row, and the way that they've won them, they haven't really been tested at many times on this journey. They've taken a very good Comeragh Rangers team that has the likes of Emma Marie in there, Munster champions, Waterford back-to-back champions, and they just make them look so ordinary. 111 to 3 points is not a competitive contest, no matter what way you spin it.
No, it really wasn't, and this is for what Ergnats have done in Kilmacud. This game is exactly how we kind of expected it to go, and what we worried would happen in the other game as well. But yeah, look, you still got to give credit to Clonberne. They still had to go out there and put in the performance and get the victory, and they did. I mean, reducing Comeragh Rangers to only 3 points over the course of a 60-minute game is really, really impressive going. And look, you had the likes of Olivia De Villy, who got 5 points, but it was even Noon who was really the star player. She got 3 points in a row at one stage. I think it was halfway through the second half, and it really pushed their side on and really, really kicked them on from there. And yeah, look, they're just a really, really dominant side, and you know, they're going to take a beating in Croke Park. I mean, look, I know Ergnats have taken down Kilmacud Crokes, but Clonberne are really the team that you need to take down if you're to really, really win a championship, and that's when you've really, really earned it then. But and they're going to be a difficult team to stop in Croke Park, especially now that they're so used to it as well. So I don't want to jinx them again, to be honest with you, because this could come back and bite me again. But I feel like you can't look past Kilkerrin Clonberne for the All-Ireland again this year. If they're beating a side like Comeragh Rangers by that scoreline, a team that deservedly won the Munster Championship and won the Waterford Championship in very convincing fashion as well, over the side that I predicted. But sure, every prediction I do this year goes wrong anyway, so not that matters anymore. But
in the club.
yeah, it's not been a great few months, I'm not gonna lie. But I
have to be honest, the minute I seen Dicksboro get knocked out, I was like, oh, for fuck's sake, it's that type of weekend, is it? Like, what's gonna happen now? Are Ballygunner gonna lose? Thankfully they didn't.
Yeah. But yeah, look, Clonberne will be the favourites going into the final, and you look at the players that they have, I think it's hard to write them off. But at the same time, as we've seen today, and as we've seen over the course of the club championship over the last number of years, the club championship can just bring up a surprise out of nowhere. And maybe fairy tales can be written. So you never know. We wish them the best of luck in the final in a couple of weeks' time anyways. But I think at this moment in time, I still can't be looking past Kilkerrin to win the All-Ireland again.
Yeah. No, to be honest, as amazed as I am by St. Ergnats, I wouldn't have backed Kilmacud Crokes even going into that final against Kilkerrin Clonberne. Because Matthew, again, this is a trademark of Kilkerrin Clonberne. They just give you no hope. They literally it's not like they smash and grab at the end to win. They just take over the game the minute the ball is thrown in, and you never really have a chance against them.
No, you don't. And it was probably emphasised in this game when Ashley Madden got the early goal for Kilkerrin Clonberne. They led 1-1 to 2 points at half time. And even with that scoreline, they were 2 points up against Comeragh. You were thinking, Comeragh, they've got a good result against Southern Gaels. They got a good result against Aero for Cork. They could provide a big test, and they do with Waterford seniors, the likes of Katie Murray example. But Kilkerrin wiped them asunder in the second half. They outscored them 10 points to 1. And you're thinking they're just a relentless machine that keep going. And you look at the players that they do have at their disposal, the likes of, as Liam mentioned, Olivia Divley, Eva Noon, Hannah Noon, obviously Nicola Ward, Louise Ward, Ailish Morrissey. They have an abundance of inter-county talents. They have a togetherness as a group. They're used to playing in big games, and they're just inevitable. To be honest with you, they are an absolutely incredible team overall. And you look at the amount of players that got on the score sheet as well today. I think it was 5 different scores as well. So it's a very good kind of motto to have, in fairness, from a Kilkerrin point of view. They're strong in every position. They've inter-county experience. They have the highest level of club experience as well. And they are an exceptional group of players. And to be honest with you, look, St. Ergnats, it's a fantastic achievement, what we're saying, but this is a different ball game. You're going to Croke Park. It's a brilliant achievement for Ergnats to get there, but there could be an argument as well. They might be overawed by the occasion. In the first half, it kind of takes about 15-20 minutes to kind of get used to your bearings in a ground like Croke Park. It's like a coliseum in many ways. But Kilkerrin are so used to the ground now. They've played there for the last 3 All-Ireland finals. In this one, 4. So like, they have an abundance of experience there, and I think they have the capabilities to, if they start off well, I don't think Ergnats can recover as quickly as, let's say, Kilmacud did to an extent last season. So yeah. I think it's Kilkerrin's to lose, but at the same time, you never know, especially with Ergnats shocks over the last few weeks. But this Kilkerrin team, the players that they have, the inevitability that they have, you would expect them to get the win.
Yeah, no, well said. I think it's not meant to come across at all as a disrespect towards Ergnats. They've been absolutely amazing, but it's just when you look at what Kilkerrin have done, you would be crazy to say that they're not favourites going into the final. But we are going to move on now. A lot of people had high hopes for this one, lads, and it just didn't turn out to be a competitive game at all. Ballygunner, 21 points. Éire Innis, 1 goal and 9 points. A lot of people thought that this one would be competitive, Liam. It just wasn't at all. Ballygunner cruise to the Munster title.
No, it really wasn't competitive in the slightest, to be honest with you. And it's unfortunate from an Éire perspective because, look, they did well to get to the Munster final, and they did brilliantly to win the Clare Championship this year. What was it, after 35 years, was it, or 30 years anyways, to win the championship. But yeah, I thought at the start maybe it felt some bit competitive to a degree, but once Ballygunner settled into the game, there was not much to contend with after that, really, to be honest. I mean, they led 12-4 at half-time, could easily have led by more, to be honest with you. They were nearly sucking the life out of Éire. We were saying it just before we came on as well. Anytime Éire were hoofing the ball up to the full forward line, there seemed to be nobody there. It kind of felt like Shane O'Donnell was kind of winning everything on his own, or trying his best to win everything on his own, but there's only so much one individual can do, But when you've got the likes of Desi Hutchinson and Patrick Fitzgerald and Park Mahoney picking off the scores that they were, especially Hutchinson, you're asking for trouble, to be honest with you. So, and look, they got the penalty at the end through Danny Russell, but it's just at that stage the game is done. It's a consolation, and nobody's going to be, I mean, you won't be losing sleep over it really if you're Ballygunner. I know you say you always want to find things to work on, but it's nearly hard to keep your motivation up to the same level when you've the game won with 5 minutes to go. And look, it's great credit to Ballygunner. Look, they had the shock last year of the performance that they put in the Munster final. Probably took a lot of learning from that, and the way Sarsfield's pushed up against them and pressed them last year, and really dragged it into a dogfight and really took a foothold in the game last year. This year, Éire Óg just could not repeat that at all. Ballygunner were out for blood from the very start of the game. And they're deserved winners. And you'd probably have to rank them now, along with, you'd probably maybe say, it would probably come down to, if Ballyhale were to get over St. Martin's, it would probably come down between Ballygunner and Ballyhale in that semi-final. And given the players that Ballyhale are missing at the moment, and given the fact that they weren't overly brilliant against Clock Ballycolla, they were poor in the first half against ourselves, had a good second half. They're not maybe in the best shape themselves, but of course it's Ballyhale. We can't write them off by any stretch of the imagination. But yeah, look, Ballygunner, it's great to win a Munster championship for them again. It's a 4th title in 5 years, but the All-Ireland is the one that they want to win, and they're going to take a tough beating in the semi-final now. There's no question about it.
Yeah, I think over the last few years, when Ballygunner and Ballyhale matched up, the one thing that would have me a bit hesitant about it is Ballyhale have tended to have Ballygunner's number. Like, even the one where Ballygunner won, it was a last gasp shot by Harry Ruddle that went in, and on another day, Dean Mason saves that, and Ballyhale win the All-Ireland that time. And then the other times that they've met, it's been Ballyhale that have had the upper hand. So I would be nervous about that one, and that's got me very nervous about my All-Ireland pick. Peter here says, sounds like Dalo was being used as ammo by Ballygunner. And says, a bit of an awkward interview after with Jason Ryan. I thought that was very, very interesting. We've had more comments in here. Ryan sent 2 very disappointing hurling finals. Both underdogs didn't perform. Hopefully St. Martin's do perform next weekend. Peter also saying here, Munster final, a very poor spectacle. Ballygunner doing what they do best. It's an interesting point that Peter brings up, Matthew, that it was a very interesting interview that Desi Hutchinson gave after the game, where he mentioned about Anthony Daly, saying that they're not quite where they used to be or what they used to be and everything like that. And it's showing that Ballygunner are building that kind of siege mentality and trying to get that chip on their shoulder again to prove that they still are that team that they were a couple of years ago when they won the All-Ireland. It's interesting that they have that mentality when they've been so successful. Now, going into the Final Four, can they be stopped?
I think, honestly, and Liam put this brilliantly, when you look at the other side of the draw, with the greatest respect to Loughgiel and Slaughtneil, I think the only team that can stop them is Ballyhale or St. Martin's if they come through it. I think this Ballygunner team is very, very good and fair to say. You look at their Munster Championship record over the last few years. In the last 7 Munster Championships, they've won 5 of them. Since 2018, they've only lost 2 championship games. They've only lost up to Munster. They've lost only 2 championship games, and that was against Barcelona in 2019 and Sarsfields in 2024. And at the same time, you have to give a lot of credit to Barcelona and to Sars last year for overcoming Ballygunner, because you have to. This was kind of the thing with the Éire Óg today. You have, when you're facing Ballygunner, you have to be honest from the very, very off. You have to be honest, and you can't lose any bit of concentration throughout the entire 60 minutes. And Éire Óg did that too much today, for my liking. They just didn't put it up to Ballygunner the way that other teams have in the past. Even the Piercic a few weeks back, to be fair, it really put it up to them, albeit that was in the Gaelic grounds and he was in kind of the Piercic's home patch, you would argue. And that's why maybe the Piercic put it up to them. But at the same time, they got in their face. The problem with the Piercic that day was the shooting. That's what let them down. It was just a multitude of things with Éire Óg. Multitude of things. And it will kind of haunt them the way they did perform. They only got 3 points from play as well. They only had 11 shots from play, which it's not really good enough. Not really good enough to beat Ballygunner, but not really good enough to win any game of hurling in any stretch of the imagination. It's just, it was poor enough from them. But look, they've had a good year and fair play to them for that. But on to Ballygunner, look, I think Ballyhale will put it up to them. Like Ballyhale, the Kilkerrin performance in the second half, and in the first half at stages, their shooting was very, very good. Their puck-outs were decent at Ballyhale. And Clock Ballycolla really put it up to them in the semi-final, but they went through that test. With Ballygunner, they've had a few kind of near misses. The Piercic game, as I mentioned, the De La Salle game in the Waterford semi-final, where a few kind of goals right at the end kind of caught them. But look, this Ballygunner team would want an All-Ireland, and I think their eyes are set on that. And I think Micheál O'Donnell and TG Carr actually said this as well, that winning 1 All-Ireland in this spell of time for Ballygunner is kind of an unfair reflection on the team. I'd probably agree with that, because you look at the players that Ballygunner have, you look at the talent that they do have, the Munster record that they do have. They're now top of the roll of honour for Munster Championships as well. They are a very, very good side, and you would take a special performance to beat them. So you can't write them off whatsoever. And look at their performance today. They didn't allow Ergnats space, but at the same time, Ergnats didn't perform to their ability either. So it's kind of difficult to kind of judge them going to the semi-final. Look, Ballyhale will eye the St. Martin's game next week. They can't have a Kilmacud LGFA situation. They cannot take their eye off the ball against St. Martin's next week. They have to get the job done. And if they get the job done, move on to the Ballygunner game, and it'll be an absolute cracker. I'd imagine that game, if Ballyhale get through that, it'll be on a Turles. That'll be a cracker, and the best team win after that. But look, Ballygunner, they ain't going nowhere. They're a decent side. And what Jason Ryan and Desi Hutchins were saying, I think they're kind of playing the long game in a way. They were ecstatic to win the Munster Championship, but what they're eyeing really is an All-Ireland title. And in a way, I think many people like Anthony Daly and other people in the media might have been discounting Ballygunner because of the managerial change. Darragh Sullivan did so much of Ballygunner over the years. Jason Ryan comes in. And to be fair, it was a bit of a rocky start, I would say, in the Waterford Championship. In the semi-final, they struggled to get over the line against De La Salle. But as the weeks have gone on, they've got better. You have to say that from a Ballygunner point of view. So, they will be a hard bet for anybody in the All-Ireland series. They've 2 more games now, 2 more games from 2 All-Irelands in the last 2 seasons. And look, who's there to stop them? We'll have to see in the next few weeks.
Well, when Matthew puts it on paper there like that, Liam, 5 Munsters in 7 seasons is crazy for a province that is so competitive and constantly produces teams that are absolutely fantastic. And to only lose twice in the Munster Championship to teams of the calibre of Stars and Tabarsi, and to constantly see off the likes of Napirsig, Doon, Ballier, and now Ergnats. It's remarkable how good and how consistent they've been.
Yeah.
But again, that question of how many All-Irelands are you going to win with this crop that you have right now, that has to be an obsession for them. And when you see, they celebrate, don't get me wrong, they celebrated winning that Munster Championship. And maybe it was a little bit that they knew they were going to win it for the last 20 minutes of the game. But the celebrations weren't too ecstatic compared to, when you saw, say, for example, I don't know, Cúilín or Strandhill win the Connacht Football Championship, and it was absolute carnage. It's because Ballygunner, their goal is further than this. Their goal is to win the All-Ireland. And I think, Matthew, what you were talking about there, about when you're playing Ballygunner, you have to be on it from the get-go. I think Ballygunner are aware of that as well. And I think Ballygunner really target the first 10, 15 minutes, very similar to Kilkerrin Clonberne, actually, in the LGFA, that they don't even let you think for one split second that you can beat them. They target those first 10, 15 minutes to immediately establish a bit of a platform over you, that already you're 5 points behind, you're 6 points behind, and all of a sudden you're chasing the game immediately. And that's why the first 15 minutes, 20 minutes against Ballygunner is so important. And when they have been beaten those times against Stars, against Borrisley, a good start has been crucial. And any team that's done all right against Ballygunner has usually made a good start. They didn't even let Arrow get a sniff of a good start, Liam.
No, they genuinely didn't. I was disappointed in a way with Erog, how they were kind of standing off them at times and they weren't pushing up on them. I know it's easier said than done, and I know the conditions were absolutely dreadful watching it. I'd say they were swimming back. They're swimming back to Waterford this evening and to Clare this evening. But still, no, I agree with what Maggie said there. You have to get in their face from the very start of a game. And like you mentioned there, 5 Munsters in the last 7 years, and the 2 sides that they lost to went on to reach the All-Ireland finals, so it's not like there was any disgrace in losing to them either, so yeah, and he mentioned there, Napiersig's biggest problem on that day that they played in the first round was their shooting, but their pressing on them was really good. They were getting up in their faces, they were being physical with them, which is what Sarsfields did last year, and that's why they ultimately won last year, because they tested them and they pushed them and they were physical with them. They got up in their faces, they were playing the right balls at the right time. They were being smart about it. But Airog today just weren't like that. And look, it's still a great achievement for them to get to a Munster final after not winning the Clare title for so long, and to beat Loughmore Castleiney in a semi-final. And look, despite, I think that was a very poor match by that standard as well, they still went out and won the game. But yeah, for Ballygunner, the aim is to win the All-Ireland. It looked fairly, without sounding too mean, it just looked a bit meh when they won it, when they won today. Or not in a bad way, but just they want to win the All-Ireland ultimately, and they're not going to settle at the end of the year for just a Waterford title and just a Munster title. You know, for as much as that's still a fantastic achievement and it'd be an unbelievable achievement for any other club, they want to rewrite the wrongs of St. Thomas's in 23. They want to rewrite the wrongs of Ballyhale in 22, rewrite the wrongs of Sarsfield's last year. You know, like they want to rewrite all these wrongs and get rid of all these demons from them. So yeah, look, it's a fantastic achievement from them, and it's a good performance from them. But Martins or Ballyhale Shamrocks will be the ultimate test for them, and ultimately, and it's no disrespect to Loughgiel or to Slaughtneil, I'm sure they'll give it socks in the final. But over the course of 60 minutes, I don't see either one of those stopping this Ballygunner team in Croke Park.
Yeah, they're going to take some stopping. And if Ballyhale Shamrocks do get through that St. Martin's game, I think Ballyhale, for me, are the ones that can stop them. And I don't mean that as a disrespect to St. Martin's. I just think this Ballygunner team is just top notch. And I think the only team that have had their number in the past 2 years has been Ballyhale. Peter says, if there was a Champions League of club hurling, send Ballygunner. It's just nearly robotic. There's no doubt about it. They just know how to get over the line in these games. And he also says, as Shane McGrath said on Radio Comms, you nearly need to fully mark Stephen O'Keefe. Ballygunner, Ballyhale will be box office, absolutely will. And they meet in the semi-finals should Ballyhale get through St. Martin's, which you will have a full preview for here on Cúilín Media as well, on the relevant weekend preview show. So make sure to keep an eye peeled for that one too. Now, overall, though, lads, I don't think I'm being too harsh in saying that it was a poor provincial final in terms of competitiveness. And this one was the same. Slaughtneil, 23 points, St. John's, 10 points. Again, a provincial final where Slaughtneil, being similar to Ballygunner in terms of being the dominant force in the province over the past 6-7 years, completely swept St. John's out the gate in terms of that they just completely nullified St. John's attack.
Can we move on from this game?
Yeah, exactly. It was
yeah, I mean,
it
wasn't that competitive.
It wasn't really at all. And look, Slaughtneil won't care a jot. The Ulster champions once again, and their aim is to probably break that All-Ireland semi-final hoodoo and get over the line against Loughgiel in a couple of weeks' time. But look, it was a decent win for Slaughtneil, and they do have some serious players like Brendan Rodgers, Shane McGuigan. I've seen a picture actually of Brendan Rodgers and Chrissy McCaig celebrating the championship together. Isn't it great to see Chrissy McCaig back in the team? I think it's absolutely brilliant. Look, he's been a soldier for
him. I would hate to mark him. I was looking at it on the screen. I was like, he just would be my worst nightmare to mark. I'd say it's horrible marking him.
No,
and,
so tough.
You had to say prayers for the St. John's player went up on him last night. But look, it was a very good display for Slaughtneil, and we said this a few weeks ago that we talked about Christy Ring players of the year. Cormac O'Doherty should have got it. He got 10 points last night, and I still believe, like, if he was in any other county, a lot of people talk about Cormac O'Doherty as one of the probably the notable players in hurling circles in Ireland at this present moment of time. He got 10 points, and like, he was absolutely exceptional all night. In fairness, 9 of them frees as well. He got 1 from play. Brendan Rodgers got 2 points. Obviously, Shea Cassidy got 3 points, a very good player as well. Shane McGuigan 2 points. Chrissy himself got 2 points from midfield. Still got it. It doesn't matter what the age he is, but doesn't matter if he was retired from intercounty football, but he is a very, very good player. Their half-back line, I have to say, Slaughtneil, and obviously Sarah's faced them last year in the semi-final. They do have a solid half-back line, not just a solid half-back line, but a half-back line full of big units, like Micheál McGrath at centre-back, Rory O'Meanon at wing-back, Shane McGuigan at the other wing. They do have some exceptional talented players in fairness. Fionn McEldowney is another good player, corner-back as well. And look, they will take some serious beating from Loughgiel, and they will be determined to get over the line because they've had this semi-final hoodoo over them for a number of years now. Slaughtneil, they were devastated last year, losing to Saracens in that semi-final, obviously with the last puck of the game in Newbridge. They were very, very disappointed to lose that game. A chance to make amends in a couple of weeks' time now against a Loughgiel team that really tested the FINA, but haven't been, well, other than last year, haven't been up at the higher ends of All-Irelands in a number of years. So this is a big chance for Slaughtneil to take down Loughgiel and get over the line. And you'd imagine that game would be somewhere like would say Kingspan, Breffni and Cavan are boxed at the Lady Grounds in Armagh because of the middle ways between the two sides. So the venue probably will be an Ulster venue. So you'd imagine that Slaughtneil will have the advantage there. They do have some serious players. They're experienced in All-Ireland semi-finals at this stage. Surely there comes a time when it all clicks, and surely there comes a time when they get over the line. And look, they didn't really get tested by St. John's, but at the same time, they did a professional job. They got over the line. They won't care about this result, in fairness. And when you consider that, I think Oisin McManus from St. John's got 9 points out of a possible 10 for St. John's. Look, I didn't watch this game because I had other commitments, obviously, yesterday. But when you look at that stat on the sheet, that's horrendous, isn't it? That's like, to have one player to score nearly all your scores. They just really didn't turn up in the final. It's very disappointing from St. John's point of view. Again, like Ergnats, they had a very good season. It was just a very bad end to it. And look, they were second best throughout the evening, and Slaughtneil absolutely deserved the win.
Yeah, I think it was just a case that, like, they were just showing the levels. Like, they were showing how high they have to climb to get to where Slaughtneil are at. Going forward, though, Liam, I mean, you look back at last season, in that semi-final that they played, and that goal chance that Slaughtneil had going down the home stretch, that no doubt has been living in their head ever since. They have unfinished business with the club championship as well. And correct me if I'm wrong, have they? I don't think they've been to the All-Ireland hurling final. The semi-final has always been their undoing.
Not to my knowledge, no.
Yeah,
no.
I'd say haven't been. You haven't. Yeah,
certainly not in the last 15 years or anything. They haven't been.
No, they haven't been. No dairy club has ever been to the All-Ireland final.
There you go. Like, it's a massive, massive opportunity now, because, like, look, Loughgiel are fantastic. Obviously, they wouldn't have won the Galway Championship if they weren't. But the reality is that, to call a spade here, like, Ballygunner, and for me, I think Ballyhale are going to come through the Leinster final against St. Martin's. If you're Slaughtneil, Ballygunner and Ballyhale are so experienced in the Final Four in terms of getting to the All-Ireland final, and they've both won it very, very recently. Loughgiel haven't. So you would be saying, if you're Slaughtneil, well, we're on the side of the draw where we have more of a chance of making history.
Yeah, 100%. No, they're probably on a more favourable side of the draw, and especially with the fact that when was the Galway final? It was a few weeks ago as well. So, like, it's not like Loughgiel have had, I mean, where are you going to get challenge matches at this time of the year as well, with most clubs finished? Nobody's going to want to play a match, do you know what I mean? Because they're all off on the beer for the winter, or they're back training with their county. So, yeah, look, Slaughtneil, it's a massive, massive opportunity for a dairy club as well to reach an All-Ireland final. Would be an unbelievable achievement. And when you look at the players that they do have, the Cormac O'Dohertys, the Shea Cassidys, the Chrissy McKaigs, the Brendan Rodgers, who I rate very, very highly, like, it will be an achievement for them. But look, Loughgiel are a side that pushed Nafina all the way last year as well in the semi-final. We're probably unlucky not to win that either. So they probably feel like they have some unfinished business as well. And I didn't even think they'd win the Galway Championship this year. I thought Thomas's were the strongest side in Galway, and they turned them over in the final. So it'll make for an interesting final. And look, when you get to a final, for me, it is still 50-50. No matter who's on the other side of the draw, it is still 50-50 at the end of the day. You're in an All-Ireland final. You're both there on merit, and you're both there to rewrite your own bit of history. But I do agree, look, they're on the more favourable side of the draw. I'd imagine they're probably happier to be playing Loughgiel than they would have been Ballygunner or Ballyhale. But yeah, and that's I will say as well, I agree completely with Matthew. That's not a great look to see that you only have 2 players getting on the score sheet in a match in general. You know, never mind just a final, but in a match in general, it's not a great look. So look, disappointing from St. John's. It was a great achievement for them to win the Antrim Championship, but it's just not the kind of end of the year that they would have liked. But look, for Slaughtneil, professional job. Not the best game I've ever watched, but they won't care. They'll move on.
Yeah, no, job done for Slaughtneil. But the main story from John's year is this, Peter, saying John's won Antrim for the first time in 89 years. That is their mountain this year. And it's unfortunate that, the club championship is structured that way, that when you make history and you win the club championship for the first time in however many years, you're immediately out against the Sharks that have kind of won it 4 or 5 years in a row in their respective county or whatever. And the reality is that Slaughtneil just had way too much for Johns in this contest. But they go down, swinging and everything like that. And yeah, I think they had a good year. Winning a first Antrim championship in 89 years like that is absolutely incredible. So fair play to everyone involved. Unfortunate way to wrap up, but a great year for St. John's nonetheless. And the thing is like they can take pride from the fact that they got to the Ulster final, they won their semi-final, and maybe they can bounce back. But the Antrim Championship will be tough because you've got Loughgiel, Shamrocks there, you got Rorio, Cushendall there, you got Dunloy there, you've got more teams that are incredible in that championship. It will be difficult to bounce back, but time will tell how they get on. But that is the Senior Hurling Championship action wrapped up. We've also covered the LGFA semi-finals. We're now going to move on to the Senior Football Championship action from across the weekend, starting with the Connacht Senior Football Championship final, which finished St. Brigid's 116, Moycullen 114 at Dr. Hyde Park. Rory Fallon's late goal proves decisive as St. Brigid's win the Connacht Football Championship. It all went down to the wire between St. Brigid's and Moycullen, as we knew it would. Rory Fallon's goal proved decisive, and they get over the line for a 6th Connacht title. Matthew, we always knew this one was going to be close. It certainly was.
I'd love to know what was in Rory Fallon's mindset when he took that shot. Like, seriously, like most players would actually loop it over the bar or fist it over the bar. But what a finish. What a finish into the bottom corner. And it's serious, I would say, determination to get the ball into the back of the net. What a finish as well. And look, Brigids didn't have their own way in this game. They had some probably better spells in the game than Moycullen. Moycullen got a lucky goal, I would say, in the first half through Fiacre McDonald. It was a long ball lofted in, and to be honest, it was in the back of the net before I even knew it was in the back of the net. Loughgiel and TG Carr. But look, they did have their bad points at that stage, and then obviously Moycullen took the lead with that point at the very end. At the very end, you were thinking Moycullen are going to go and win this game now. And then Brigids go down the other end, just put the ball over the barrier, thinking, take this game to extra time and manage it from there. But what a finish by Rory. It was a really, really good finish. And to be fair, I think Brigids deserved it. On the balance of play, on the balance of what players stood up, I think they absolutely deserved it in terms of their play today. Conor Hand, what a performance from him, 7 points from play. I know 2 of them were 2-pointers, but the 2-pointer, the stroke at halftime, is absolutely crucial in keeping Brigids right in touch. Ben O'Carroll got 4 points, 3 from play as well. Very good display from him. Shane Conan, Bobby Nugent didn't have his best game today, but still got on the score sheet. Paul McGrath. I think just on the side note, Paul McGrath's speech at the end of it, obviously for paying tribute to the late Don Kennellan as well, I thought was absolutely brilliant in fairness. And it doesn't just epitomise Paul McGrath as a captain, a leader, and an excellent player for Brigids, but what a human being as well to do that. Obviously, Moycullen would have been down in the dumps after losing that game, but to pay tribute to him like that, I thought it was one of the most. Well, we are only at the start of, or end of November, start of December, but it's already one of the moments of the year etched in. Like, it was just an emotional moment and will live long in the memory, no doubt about it. Look, J.C. Kennedy had a good performance from Moycullen point of view. Fionn McDonough, Fiacre McDonald, Niall Walsh at centre forward was very, very good as well. Peter Cook showed some bright sparks coming onto the pitch. But ultimately, I think Brigids were the better team, and I think the better team won on the day. They did 60% shooting accuracy compared to Moycullen's 46%. I think they were better at probably taking their opportunities than Moycullen were throughout the day, and ultimately that's what got them over the line today. I thought, yes, Moycullen might have been better on the kick-out. They had stronger players, they had more physical kind of attribute players, but Brigids had more quality. And I think that quality will be decisive in taking down whoever it is in the All-Ireland the semi-final, whether it be Scottstown, whether it be Kilkenny. And look, it was a brilliant win for Brigids. And yeah, they got over the line, they got over steep test. And what a hero Rory Fallon is.
Yeah, no, it was an absolutely incredible finish. And as you said, fair play to Paul McGrath for how he handled the post-match speech and everything. That was a lovely touch. Peter here saying Anthony Cunningham, former Galway manager, is the Brigid Spanish star. Yes, and he certainly carries a lot of, managerial experience. Obviously managed the Roscommon inter-county team as well in the past. So, I mean, the amount of bags of experience that he's carrying is absolutely crucial. And Liam, like, we've discussed this before. Like, Brigid's got to the All-Ireland final a couple of years ago. Up until Conor Glass's goal, they were right in there. And that's the point when the game changed, when Glass's shot went into the net. They know how to get to the All-Ireland final, and they'll know what they did wrong in that game. And there's a track record of Kilmacud getting to the final the year before, losing it and coming back and winning it the next year. Kilmacud Crokes did the same thing, and Glen did the same thing as well. Brigids got to the final, they lost. They will have learned a lot from that. Anthony Cunningham at the helm. Brian Stack, Ben O'Carroll, Conor Hand, unbelievable players throughout the team. The experience that Brigids have from getting to that All-Ireland final cannot be underestimated, especially now that they're in the Final Four.
Yeah, no, it helps massively having someone like Anthony Cunningham, especially. Like he's gotten to a number of All-Ireland finals as well. Got to the All-Ireland final with Galway in 2015, especially as well, and was probably maybe I wouldn't maybe say unfortunate not to win it because they were poor enough in that second half against Kilkenny. But he still got a good Galway team to the final, and gave them belief by half time. But yeah, look, it's a brilliant performance. It's a brilliant way for Brigids to win it. Because I thought Mike Cullen were going really, really well in the game. They started really, really strong. It was a disappointing start from them to be 1-1 to no score down after a couple of minutes, and you were thinking, Jesus, especially having home advantage. Well, not home advantage, but like the match being in Dr. Hyde Park, you're thinking you need to get off to a better start than that. But yeah, like Matthew said, Falton's goal was an absolute rocker. But I thought Hand at centre forward was just absolutely out of this world. To kick the 2 pointers that he did, especially at this time of the year, it's a much harder ball as well. And his influence on the game was absolutely terrific. And the way they defended at the end as well to make sure that they got themselves over the line, that they didn't drop themselves short and miss out on winning the game in normal time was really, really crucial. And yet they'll take a beating now in the All-Ireland semi-final. It's wide open now. There'll be no team that'll be taking them lightly at all in the All-Ireland series now. They're definitely going to be aiming to win an All-Ireland title. There's no question about that. Like, I'd say they won't be just content with just winning Roscommon. They won't be just content with winning the Connacht title. They'll be desperate to go on now and win this All-Ireland title. And yeah, they're going to take some beating. And if Cunningham can add an All-Ireland with Brigids to the CV after what he's done over the course of his career, it'd be absolutely fantastic. But and it's tough on Mike Cullen because they've been excellent Galway champions, and again today they put up a great challenge, and especially going essentially away from home for this match. In the way that they won the semi-final as well, they've done themselves really, really proud. And had they gone through today, they'd have been genuine contenders for the All-Ireland as well. I'm just glad that we got a good Connacht final, to be honest. I think it deserved it with these two teams in it. It was probably one of the games of the weekend, maybe even the game of the weekend from the men's side anyways. But yeah, congratulations to Brigids anyways. I'm delighted that the team that I predicted to win was won by the team that knocked my team out. So Aaron has a crystal ball of some kind, but yeah, fair play to Brigids. Great win for them. Yeah,
did Aaron say Brigids from the get-go to win Connacht?
Yeah, because I said Porters and he said Brigids.
Yeah, I'm delighted for him. Not bitter at all. Yeah, not bitter at all. I didn't pick Salt Hill or anything who didn't get out of Galway. But anyway, we'll carry on into the next game. You mentioned as well, Liam, about that potentially being the men's football game of the weekend. I think it has a strong rival in this one. What a game this was between, apologies, let me just fix that up. I've just noticed the score is incorrect. That's a howler from Seamus. Live on set as well. 219 to 219 I had. It's actually 220 to 220. So let me get that up. The Ulster Senior Football Championship semi-final. Obviously, it was postponed last week due to terrible conditions. Refixed for this week, and what a game it was. It was worth waiting for. Scottstown 220, Sean O'Leary Newbridge 220. After extra time, it went to penalties, and Scottstown won 4-2 from spot kicks. Matthew, this was just a sensational game in terrible conditions as well.
Yeah, and who's to say that this game wouldn't be called off at halftime as well? But I think, yeah, but look, it was a brilliant game of football. Obviously, between the two sides, it was a high-scoring encounter as well. But Scottstown will be feeling relieved, I would say, out of this, because at halftime they were way ahead. They were I think it was 111 to 1-4 at halftime, or yeah, it was 113 to 1-4 at halftime. You were thinking, Scottstown are miles ahead here. Surely they get the job done here. And then even going to the last quarter, they were still, 215 to 1-9 up. And they still making bags of it towards the end of it. And you're thinking, is the Scottstown kind of curse? Is it raining down on them once again? Because Newbridge came back into that game with a house on fire. Obviously, the goal from Conor Doherty ignited light into this game in the second half. And Eamon Young, what a performance from Eamon Young and Sean Young as well, the two Youngs. And I think one of them has been talked about as being a Derry senior next year. He'll be a real talent, whoever it is. They're both very good players. I wouldn't be surprised if either would make the senior team, to be honest with you. Then Conor McAteer gets the equaliser to force extra time. What a game it was. Oshie Doherty then gets Newbridge in front 218 to 216. You're thinking, Jesus, Scottstown, that's another example that they just can't field under the pressure. Then Rory Beggan, what a kick, a 2-pointed free to make the sides level again. Jack McCarron, Callum McGrogan, and then it was level again at half time extra time. And obviously, Conor McAteer again equalises to take the game to penalties. And Scottstown just had the nerve to get over the line. But what a game of football. But I will say, like, Scottstown will be relieved, I would say, out of that game. Like, if they lost that game, you'd be thinking, from a Scottstown point of view, to be 4 points up when the game was abandoned at half time last week, to be as good a position as they were up going to the last quarter of this game. Never mind half time, they're going to the last quarter. You were thinking, if Scottstown would have lost this game, they would have absolutely regretted it. But look, from their point of view, thank God they got over the line. Newbridge, they gave it the best they could. Wasn't enough in the end, and Scottstown will go to the final against Kilkenny. And I think the 2-week break now, the final is set for the 13th or the 14th of December. And ultimately, because of the Titanic battle that they had today, I think that will suit Scottstown in the next few weeks. Whether they'll beat Kilkenny, I'm not sure, but I think that's an ideal bit of preparation for Scottstown before the Ulster final.
Yeah, it's really interesting because when you look at it, like, how exactly do the Scottstown management feel? Obviously delighted to get through the game, but you've got so much to be happy with. The mettle that your team showed to not panic, under any circumstances, even when Newbridge had them against the ropes. But then again, they put themselves in that position. They were so clear of Newbridge and they let themselves get reeled in. That being said, they're in a fantastic position now going into this final against Kilkenny, because Kilkenny will be favourites. And on paper, you're looking at the players that Scottstown have. They have the players to do serious damage to Kilkenny. No question about it. And like it or not, their mettle was tested in this game. Tested to the max, and they've passed the test. Now, they passed on penalties. Once it goes into penalties, it can go either way. But the point is, in the club championship, it just simply doesn't matter. In the club championship, it doesn't matter how you get there, by hook or by crook. You just get to the next round. And even though Scottstown were in a great position before they let Newbridge rope them back in, the reality is they've made it through the test, and they're into the Ulster final against Kilkenny, where they will be underdogs. They won't care. There's not the same pressure on them to get over the line, and they are very, very dangerous as underdogs. And if I were Kilkenny, I would be sweating over that one. Even though the game last year, Kilkenny made mincemeat of them, I don't think that's going to happen again this year. I think Scottstown will have learned a lot, and they'll take it into the next game. Liam, what did you make of it?
Well, I think winning it on penalties, again, I had this conversation with Arian Delaney the other day, who's the Camogie Camogie manager, which, first of all, congratulations to them today on their win and reaching the All-Ireland final. And Arian, if you're probably not watching, but if you are watching, I'll appreciate another interview in a week or two's time for me show, if that's okay. But I said to him, would he be a fan of winning a game through penalties or 45s or 65s? He said himself, not really, because it is an amateur sport at the end of the day. But it's the only thing with playing the game at this time of the year. It's like, if this game ended in a draw, it had gone to extra time, which was the right thing. And then if they'd have gone to a third weekend in a row next weekend, like, the calendar is just so congested that had they gone to a replay again next weekend, it probably would have mentally just broken the two of them, to be honest with you. And then, if I'm being honest, you may as well just hand the title to... It'd be like, do you remember when Croatia got to the World Cup final in 2018? And you were thinking, how the hell are they not just falling on the floor against France? Because they had to go through penalties against Denmark, penalties against Russia, and extra time against England, and yet they still put in a decent performance in the World Cup. If that had happened to Scottstown or Newbridge, then Jesus, the stamina and the fitness levels would have been off the charts. But look, Scottstown are a team, but aside from that, look, it did show good mental resolve from Scottstown to get over the line in a penalty shootout, because it's all about your mentality after that, and it's about showing your bottle after that. But they have the players, not just to win Ulster, they have the players to win in All-Ireland, in my opinion. They genuinely do. And look, like you said, they'll be disappointed. The managers will be going in at the end of the game going, right, we have work to do. We absolutely have work to do. But you would rather be in a position of we have work to do than we go again next year. So look, and they'll absolutely be watching that game back against Kilkenny last year, I can imagine, and saying, this is absolutely not happening again. You know what happened last year. We cannot allow this to happen again. If we're going to lose, if we're going to win this year, we're going to win. If we're going to lose, we're going to go down fighting, not like we did last year. And listen, for them to beat a side like Newbridge in the fashion that they did is very, very impressive, to get them over the line in a penalty shootout. And look, they'll take comfort from the fact that for 45, 50 odd minutes, they were the better side. But obviously, they'll just have to work on closing the game out much better than that. But look, like I mentioned, the 2-week break will do them no harm either.
Yeah, no, they made you tear your hair out for sure, because they produced some absolutely wonderful moments, and then a bit of chaos as well. But I mean, the reality is, I thought that Newbridge would be their undoing. I really did think that. And I think, Matthew, it's not a prediction that's aged badly. It's not like Scottstown battered them and sent them out the gate, although it looked for a while like they were about to do that. But like Newbridge's consistency and just their solidness kind of shone through, especially in that second and third quarter. But the reality is, Scottstown have got to the Ulster final, and they will give Kilkenny a much better rattle, in my opinion, this year than they did last year. I mean, they can't get much worse from last year. Like last year was so one-sided, but this year I think they'll give it a much better rattle. Now, the same in terms of giving it a good rattle can't be said, unfortunately, for the two Leinster semi-finals, which we're coming to next. We'll start off with the Athy Portarlington game in St. Conleth's Park. Look, Athy just keep marching on. They held Portarlington basically at arm's length for the entire game. And you know what? Given that they were two one-sided games, I'm going to throw Ballyboden in here as well. Ballyboden, St. Enda's, 219, Tullamore, 10 points in O'Connor Park. And Liam, you were at that game. Just talk us through it, man, because it seemed to be anyway. I wasn't watching the game on Clubber, unfortunately. I was actually working yesterday, but when I watched it back, it seemed like it was very much just a case of like bam bam before you can even blink, like, and all of a sudden Ballyboden have 2 goals on the board and the game's over.
Yeah, sort of similarly to kind of Ballygunner Aerogue today. Tullamore kind of started off like well for like the first 5-6 minutes, and you were thinking, okay, a few nice movements here, they're defending well here, and they're getting the ball back, whatever. And then just bam, out of nowhere, the first goal comes, and you're like, oh, okay, right. And then the second goal comes, and then Ballyboden just start taking over. Their pace, their power, their position just really, really took over. And I was a bit disappointed with Tullamore, I'm not going to lie. Look, they've still had a fantastic year to win 3 in a row in Offaly, and they had a great win the last day over the Downs. But I think they got shown a level yesterday, to be honest with you, to get to. And like, going away to Cúilín last year and putting in the performance that they did in contrast to this year, you'd be hoping it'd be the other way around, as in they'd perform badly last year and then they go and perform very well this year. But it was just a complete opposite. They were not able in the slightest to deal with Ryan O'Dwyer in that first half. He was kicking unbelievable points. I feel, look, without naming them out because I don't want to, but Corey White's kickouts were kind of letting Tullamore down as well in his distribution from goal. But just even a lot of the time, I felt like Tullamore were kind of chasing shadows, to be honest with you. They were 2-12 to 4 points down at half time. And yeah, it was just a real uphill battle from there. They got it back to 2-12 to 10 points. I believe that's the closest they got it back to. But Ballyboden just kicked on for the remainder of the last 5-10 minutes or so and never really looked back, to be honest with you. And look, they're going to take some stopping in the final against the tie. But it's a shame for Tullamore as well, because Killian Burke is now off to the AFL. He's a big loss for both Offaly and Tullamore. But from a Ballyboden perspective, it's going to be a tough battle against a tie. No matter, even though it is in Croke Park, it probably will favour them, and they'll probably be the favourites now. But at the same time, I was very impressed with their movement yesterday, and a lot of their shooting was unbelievable. I mean, you have the Pascals there, you have O'Dwyer there, McGarry. Like they have a lot of really nice footballers there. Dara Sweeney as well. So they'll cause a tie some problems, but I didn't see much of the Athy game because I was at the other game. I checked the score one stage and it said 14-1. And again, I thought that was a typo. I was like, that can't surely be the scoreline. And I'm stupid for predicting Port Arlington to go and win the game. But a tie are looking very impressive. And, you know, at the start of the year, you'd been thinking it could have been a potential Cúilín or Kilmacud Crokes versus Naas Leinster final. And instead, we're getting Ballygunner and a tie. And it's nice to see a different final as well. And be interesting to see how that one goes next week in Croke Park.
Certainly. And I think that the thing that's a little bit alarming basically for everybody else, Matthew, is that what Ballyboden have to the game this season that they really haven't had since, I guess, 2019 when they won the Dublin Championship. This year they've had a consistency to their performances that they haven't had in previous years. In the Dublin Championship in previous years, they've looked great in some group games, and then they've had terrible performances against the likes of Kilmacud Crokes in the Dublin final, etc., etc. Whereas this year, in every game that they've played, they've maintained a certain level, and they have been very, very good. The game against Cúilín was especially one that I looked at like, wow, that was a brilliant game of football, and Ballyboden dethroned Cúilín. Like, it wasn't a case of Cúilín were bad. Cúilín were very good. And I remember, 40 minutes into that game, Cúilín are, ahead. And I'm thinking Cúilín are looking good for another All-Ireland push here. They looked really, really good in that game up until Bowden absolutely turned them over in the last 10 minutes. Ballyboden are in a nice position, and they're going in against a tie in this final. I think they're going to win. Where do you see Ballyboden's season going?
Is there an argument to say, Seamus, that they haven't been truly tested yet other than the Cúilín game, Ballyboden?
I thought the Nafina game was tough in a way. Conditions were terrible, but Nafina weren't great that day. I will accept that. And apart from that, in the Dublin Championship, they weren't tested. So it's a really good point. The one test they did have was Cúilín. Since then, they haven't really been tested. You're right. But have a tie since Naas?
They haven't either. But I'm talking about probably later down the line in terms of the All-Ireland conversation.
Yeah.
Because the Munster finalists will meet the Leinster finalists in the All-Ireland semi-final, or the winners of both competitions. And I think Dingle and the Bars are both better equipped at this stage than a tie and Ballyboden. I might be.
It's a good debate. It's a good debate. I will 100% say a tie for sure. I'm not going to argue on that one. Bowden, Dingle, and Bars. I think Bowden, Dingle, and the Bars. I think they're very even.
It's a difficult one. I've said from the outset, I said to you and I said it to Aaron as well, I haven't rated this Ballyboden team when I watched them against Navina, and I kind of have to stick to that kind of thing.
Mm-hmm.
Look, it was a brilliant win over Tullamore, but they didn't get tested in the game. Neither did a tie against Port Arlington. For the record, I do think Ballyboden will beat a tie because the game is on in Croke Park, because it's close to their home venue, and most of them players are used to the stadium rather than tie players. I just feel like Ballyboden will get over the line there. Do I think they'll have enough to beat a Bars or a Dingle? I'm not sure. If the game is on in Thurles, if the game is on in Portlaoise, in a kind of a, I would say, a Midlands venue, I'm not sure. I'm really not sure. So it's going to be it's going to be very interesting to see in the next few weeks. Obviously, a tie, Niall Kelly had a very good performance with 10 points. But he won't get that much space in Croke Park against Ballyboden. Like, Ballyboden will be converging on them. Look, Port Arlington were very, very poor against Old Leckland in the first round. They got a good win against Nate Martin in the quarter-final, but then again, they haven't been really impressive. Tullamore, I thought, would put up more of a test than they did against Ballyboden, I'll be honest with you, especially with the game being on in Glennis-Cochana Park. I thought they'd put in more of a test there. But they just didn't throw the game, as Liam was mentioning there, and it just didn't feel like the game was there in the melting pot throughout the whole thing. And that was the concerning thing from the Tullamore point of view.
It's a weirdly concerning thing from Tullamore that over the last number of years in the Leinster Championship, they've actually performed better away from home than they have at home. Like, they should have beaten Naas in 2021 in Kildare. They probably, I'm trying to think now, they were very, very poor against Summerhill at home in 23. They went away to Wicklow last year and won. They went away to Westmeath this year and won. And they went away to Dublin last year and performed well. And then this year they were very, very poor. So that's a bit of a concern from them as well, that they're not making the most out of their home advantage in Tullamore. Sorry to interrupt you, Matthew.
Yeah, but it is a very good point to be here about Tullamore and probably their home struggles. And the fact that O'Connor Park isn't the town of Tullamore, you would have expected the Tullamore players to be used to the surroundings. It's just a weird one. It really is from a Tullamore point of view. But look, Ballyboden and the tie, I think Ballyboden will go on and win the game in the end. I'm just worried from a Ballyboden point of view that they haven't been tested enough. And that would be a disadvantage to them going to an All-Ireland semi-final against Dingle or the Bars.
Be very interesting. I think the one thing as well, though, is that it's very, 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 again, could a game between the Bars and Dingle, could that take something from the Bars or Dingle? Because I do agree with you. I think it's going to be a much harder test for whoever comes out of that Munster final than it will for Ballyboden. I think Bowden will beat a tie. Could, like, the Bars at Dingle, could they be knackered more so than Ballyboden? Long journey on the road? Probably not. But, like, let's say, for example, in a much more testing game, maybe somebody pulls up with an injury or something. Again, these are all hypothetical things. But, like, if Dingle lose someone else, and they've already lost Mark O'Connor back to Australia, if, like, Tom O'Sullivan pulls up with a hamstring, or if Paul Gainey pulls up with a hamstring in extra time or something like that, because I think that game will be grueling between Finbarr and Dingle. And there was a few comments in about it earlier. Where is that game being played, Matthew?
Thurles.
Okay. Yeah, again, like, Thurles, it didn't look like the pitch was holding up okay in this game. Like, it will be interested to see in football, will the pitch get an awful treatment if the weather is like it was today? I think it's shaping up to be a battle. I really think it is. And I do fancy the Bars to take it. I think if Mark O'Connor was there, I'd be tempted.
Just a confirmation there, Seamus. Mark O'Connor's definitely out, is he?
Well, hasn't he gone back to Australia?
He wasn't. He was there for the Munster game, so I'm not sure.
Okay. Well, it's a massive swinger either way. And when we were doing the power rankings, I seen somewhere that he's going back, but it's just not confirmed exactly when he's going back. And I don't think it's a case that he'll be there for the final. But my thing is right, if he's gone, and again, I could be wrong. I could be wrong with this one. I'm not 100% sure. But if he's gone, that's a world-class midfielder gone from Dingle. And he's gone around the position that, in my opinion, Finbar's are the strongest. Ian Maguire, Brian Hayes. Like, you need somebody who can compete with them there. And if Mark O'Connor's gone, I just think that tips it massively in Finbar's favour. Because on a night like that, I'm not expecting that conditions will be great. The midfield battle is going to become tough. And I think the Bars will have the upper hand when it comes to that. But it's going to be really, really interesting. And then I think whoever wins that will face Ballyboden or a tie in the semi-final. And then you've got Kilkenny and Brigids meeting on the other side. Quick picks for a final, lads. Who do we think is going to be in there on the 30th of November? I'm going to say the final is going to be the Bars against Kilkenny. Liam?
Bars against Brigids.
I'd agree with you, Seamus. It's very, you're backing the Bars now to beat Ballyboden.
Oh,
yes.
Interesting. We'll say about the Mark O'Connor thing. If Mark O'Connor's there for Dingle, it's going to be very, very close to call.
Yeah.
But then again, nothing's very clear, is it?
No.
Like,
What? It will be fucking a tie against Scottstown or something like.
yeah. It's another thing I wanted to bring up with you as well. All Ireland semi-finals before Christmas with the hurling or after Christmas like the football?
Good question. I don't know. It's like we've had this debate before about the calendar and everything. It's very tough, lads, isn't it? Like, I do think when you look at this, I think if people seriously have a problem with Scottstown and Newbridge being decided on penalties and not being given another day out, then people do need to be more open to the club championship moving back to the old system of having the final around St. Patrick's Day. Because I think having the club championship where it has a little bit more wiggle room and stuff like that, I think that needs to be, because you can't have another week. Like, if that game went to a replay and it was being played next week, and you had the Connacht, Leinster and Munster finals all decided, and the Ulster is still at the semi-final stage, it's a big problem for how the competition is structured. So that game needed to be decided today. And if you are talking about doing this in the future, like, I'm not opposed, lads, to county finals being decided before the year's out, and then provincial and All-Ireland happens from January with the final taking place in March. Like, I wouldn't be opposed to that. It's an interesting structure, and it is the way that we used to do it, isn't it?
It used to be like you'd finish your provincial before in around December, and then the All-Ireland semi-finals. Because I remember when we got to the Ireland final, we won the title in December against Ullart, and then we played Thurles in February, and then the All-Ireland final was in March. That was the way
I do think as well, yeah, actually, like, there'd be a lot of college players, wouldn't there? There'd be a lot of college players playing Sigerson and Fitzgibbon and stuff like that. And we seen Tommy Conroy when he got his injury, like, around the time that he was playing for about 6 or 7 different teams. It would cause problems. Like, can you do it? Probably not. But, like, I like the idea almost of it having like 2 blocks, if you're going to do it that way. That, like, it goes up to county final, and then the county finals are done, and that brings like Act 1 to an end almost, and then you move into the All-Ireland stages. But it's interesting, and there's no easy answer to it. The final code before we wrap up, we are going to go with, and Matthew, I'm fully assuming, by the way, that you've gone for the Bars against Kilkenny.
Yeah.
It's going to be really, really, really difficult to call, though. Like, I think the one that I'm most nervous about is Dingle, the Bars. I think that's the tightest one to call, in my opinion. And we're going to move on now to the Senior Camogie Championship Finals, which took place on Saturday. And starting with this one, there goes my All-Ireland pick. Athenry 1-9, Dicksboro 10 points in Kilmacud. Dicksboro, who were the last All-Ireland Camogie champions to be left in the competition. They won it, obviously, in 2023. Eliminated by Athenry, the same side who knocked out Sarsfields. Now Athenry are through to the final, Liam. Incredible stuff.
Yeah, we're fairly stupid after Thursday, aren't we? Jesus, we got so many of them wrong. But no, look, fair play to Athenry. It's a fantastic victory for them. It's a great achievement to beat this Dicksboro team who have so many fantastic players all across the ranks, and to win it by 2 points as well, to get themselves over the line, to get themselves into an All-Ireland final, is an absolutely unbelievable achievement. To win it 1-9 to 10 points, defeating the 2023 All-Ireland champions, is fantastic. You had Emer Keane, Jessica Gill, who were fantastic for Athenry in this game. Even McGlynn as well, stretching their lead in the second half. And yeah, Sinead Feeney as well, who was having a top-class game. Sabina Rabbit as well was on form as well. You know, all their kind of big players that needed to step up on the day did. And, you know, and Dervla Higgins as well deserves a massive shout as well. And yeah, for them to beat SARS, who I think they were my All-Ireland picks to win it, which was gone down the drain now as well. And to go and then beat a team of Dicksboro's caliber, especially after the way they won the Leinster Championship, is unbelievable. But it's kind of unfortunate for Dicksboro. I think they were kind of being kept in the game a lot by Aoife Prendergast's freeze, which, you know, I know at this time of the year, freeze becomes a big part of the game, especially, but they probably needed more from the likes of Orla Henrik, etc., to get themselves really closer in this game. But no, great credit to Athenry in an All-Ireland final. Do I see them? You know, I didn't see them beating Dicksboro. I didn't see them beating Sarsfield. So I'm afraid to say I don't see them beating Finbarrs now in case they go and do it. But they have a very good chance of doing it now. But it is going to take a big scout. Now, if they go and beat SARS, Dicksboro and Finbarrs to win an All-Ireland final, then it'll be one of the best All-Ireland wins we've seen in a long time, in my opinion.
I think when he puts it that way, Matthew, it's very, very hard to argue. Like, if Athenry do go all the way and beat Finbarrs, it is a miraculous achievement.
It's a fantastic achievement. And obviously you have the experienced players in the Athenry team like Jessica Gill, who got the goal in the first half to kind of set the tone for Athenry. And Nora's Therese Maher from a legend as a Galway player. She's now Therese Donoghue apparently, and she did play for Athenry around the middle of the park in this game. She played from the very start, and fair play to her for getting, minutes into her legs and getting the win here for Athenry. Like, it was a fantastic achievement. Obviously, as Liam mentioned, Dervla Higgins had a good display. Sabina Rabbit, Clodagh Burke. Like, to be fair, Athenry you might think it's a shot, but they do have some decent players like Sabina Rabbit, Olwen Rabbit, Trace Donoghue, obviously, Dervla Higgins. Like, they do have some very good players, good inter-county players from a Galway point of view. And obviously, they beat Sarsfields, they beat Dicksboro, the last 2 All-Ireland champions. Like, to beat those 2 sides, it's almost like you have to go on and win the All-Ireland. Then, haven't you? Look, the Bars will provide a big test of the final, but Athenry, because of that reason, and because they have like Galway experienced campaigners, the likes of the Rabbits and the likes of Dervla Higgins, you would fancy Athenry to get over the line. Probably the punters would go for Athenry, but it is going to be a very difficult final. Look, for Dicksboro, difficult defeat to take. They had good displays for the likes of Jenny Clifford, who got 2 points in the first half, Orla Hanrick, Amy Clifford, Aoife Prendergast, Rachel Dowling, So, look, it was a difficult defeat to take for them, but Ava McLean and Kerry O'Driscoll finished it off for Athenry in this game. Look, it was a difficult defeat for Dicksboro, but brilliant win for Athenry. And look, if they win the All-Ireland, as Liam mentioned there, it'd be one of the best All-Ireland wins that I could have.
Yeah, they've really taken out the best. I mean, that's how you want to win a championship, by beating the best, and they've really, really have done it. To beat Sars, to beat Dicksboro, and now Finbarr's in their way. If they can do that, it will be incredible, but Finbarr's will take some beating. And I'm going to throw this back to you, Matthew. What a game this was. Took extra time to separate St. Finbarr's and Loughgiel Shamrocks, but it did finish in the favour of the Bars, 3-15 to 3-14 after extra time, the minimum between them, but the Bars are through to the final.
More than that, Seamus. And this is like a broken record after extra time again.
Jesus.
This doesn't stop, really. Look, I'm not in favour, I said this at previous shows, I'm not in favour of this, to be honest with you, but look, it is what it is in Camogie. And the Bars have been through 2 extra times in this campaign so far. Against
it doesn't mention that in match reports. Like, it really just says, the Bars won after extra time.
No, it was after extra. Yeah.
I think it said it in the Echo, or I said it in the Southern Star when I was reading it. Did it, or
after extra?
Ortiz when it doesn't.
Well, yeah.
There you go. Ortiz going to have to step up. I'm joking.
But look, it's not a typo anyway. It was after extra time, and what a win for the Bars in the end. Obviously, a dramatic ending. Orla Callan getting an equaliser to make it 3-14 apiece. And then I seen the highlights with Killian Whelan commentating on it. Killian Whelan did a brilliant job on commentating on it, lads. So if you haven't seen the highlights,
is this Killian the football genius?
No, Killian Whelan from Kildare.
He does commentary
and most of the Kildare games. What a performance in terms of his commentary. But even more impressive, Orla Callan's performance. She got the equalising score to make it 3-14 apiece. And then to spot Ciara Golden to make a run to get the winning score at the end. Brilliant point to put it over the bar by Ciara Golden. But what a ball in from Orla Callan to spot her and to make it 3-15 to 3-14. Goals in the first half of this one in normal time for Orla Callan. Saoirse McCartan had the Finbarrs 2-3 to 5 points up at the break, but Loughgiel really got back into this game. I don't know, again, the highlights, they're all over social media. Like, it was a brilliant goal by Roisin McCormack to bring Loughgiel Shamrocks right back into this game. And she has been a brilliant player for Loughgiel down through the years, a brilliant player for Antrim as well. Fantastic player for TUD in the Ashbourne Cup as well. What a player Roisin McCormack is. And again, we talk about Chrissy McKaig and all them in the men's side. If Roisin McCormack is playing for any other county across the islands, she'd be talked about way more. What a player she is for Antrim and for Loughgiel Shamrocks as well. She buried it into the bottom corner to make it 1-8 to 2-4 on 50 minutes. And then the Bars got it back. They got back to lead this game going into the home stretch of this one. But Amy Boyle brought it to extra time, the original extra time in this one, to make it level. Annie Lynn then got a goal for Loughgiel to make it 2-10 to 2-8 on 65 minutes. Both the Bars were pegged back. And then Loughgiel got another goal. Katrine Dobbin put it into the back of the net, and you're thinking, this game, okay, it's 3-11 to 2-11. This is it. Loughgiel are going to get over the line here. But then Orla Callan, like every bit of highlights I've seen in this game, Orla Callan was the central figure for the Bars and getting scores. She made the long-bursting run through to defence, passed it off to Emer Hurley, back of the net, 3-11 apiece. And we're going to extra time. It was a magnificent game of Camogie put in the two sides. And yeah, what a win for the Bars. And obviously Orla Callan deservedly got player of the match as well. They have some fantastic players in the team. It was Kate Wall in the Munster final last week. It's Orla Callan this week. They have different players stepping up at different times, and that is fantastic. Kind of thing to have from Barr's point of view. They're the first Cork club to reach the senior final since Milford in 2016 as well. So it's a fantastic achievement for Cork Camogie as well. And it will be a fantastic All-Ireland final between St. Finbarr's and Athenry. What a game. What a game. And obviously, I have to say this again. If you haven't seen the highlights, watch them again on YouTube. The whole game is available on YouTube on the official Camogie YouTube channel as well. Killian Whelan doing the commentary. It's an absolutely brilliant thing to watch. And he did mention as well on his Instagram, I've seen it this morning, Orla Callahan and Roisin McCormack, to watch those two players in particular. Their performances were absolutely incredible, but it was the Bars that won the day in the end.
Yeah, well said, man. It was an absolutely incredible semi-final. The two of them going up against each other in the final. We won't do predictions just yet. We'll let time develop a little bit, and then we'll do the predictions on the weekend preview show. But that is the end of a weekend review show here. An hour and 20 minutes. We're very close to the time where we get delusional, so I'm going to wrap it up right here. But if you want to see all the results from the weekend as well, check out the post that Matthew made on the Gaelic Statsman and Cúilín Media Instagram pages, recapping the intermediate and junior games as well. And a massive shout to all involved. Thank you to Liam and Matthew for jumping on. Thank you to anybody that watched over the course of the stream, and thanks especially to those that got involved in the comments as well. Really helped to make the episode what it was. We will be back Thursday evening, as Peter said, live at 8 p.m. for another weekend preview show. But until then, ta-ra.
Instinct.